This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, welcome back to another fabulous, actually all new topic for the AuthorU, your guide to book publishing community, which always makes it very cool because I've always worn it as a badge that we don't do encores. We don't do repeats of something we recorded 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because I want a day off. We always do something new. So with us, something new. I won't say something old, something new, something blue, but with us is just kind of a whole new topic area that should be critical for all of you. So I just want to welcome all of you back to this edition of AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. So throughout today's session, as we always do, we will be sharing some ahas, some insights, some tips that will enhance and support your book publishing journey. So my goal is always to support you and your book success. So let's get started. And today is my guest, Lynn Hellerstein, Dr. Lynn Hellerstein, who herself is an author many, many times over, a best-selling author, a award-winning author, and she just happens to be a pioneer in vision therapy. Her first book out of the gate has continually sold a zillion copies. She holds my record for the best book launch, selling for 960 books. She's the author of See It, Say It, Do It, as well as the Teacher's and Parents' Guide to Creating Successful Students and Confident Kids. She's also got workbooks and a variety of others, but she's got a brand new book that is just coming out of the gate called Expand Your Vision, How to Gain Clarity, Courage, and Confidence. And what I wanted to focus on was the whole visioning, the power of visualization and power of what it can bring to you as author success, book marketing success, building your influence success. You fill in the words you want, but visualizing and visioning is going to be part of that formula. Welcome to the show, Lynn.
Well, hi. Thank you, Judith. Great to be here.
So let's just kind of talk about, first of all, your book. And how did you get from being this extraordinary pioneer in vision therapy to actually expanding what you do in vision therapy to implementing it into your life?
Well, sure. Most of my great ideas and learning came from my patients. And I was so interested, especially with young kids, and many of the patients I saw had reading and writing difficulties. They couldn't track well, they couldn't write well, they were frustrated, they were clumsy at sports. And so we did more of the traditional vision therapy, which was to teach these kiddos how to track better and focus, coordinate their eyes, improve eye-hand coordination, and that was really very successful for them. But I kept running into these barriers with some of our patients in that even though they improved their skills, they still believed they couldn't do it. So, for example, the little gal she was 7 years old, struggled with reading, and I asked her how reading was going, and she just broke into tears. And it was really interesting because her tracking was better and she was focusing and learning her words, but just asking her how it was, she just wouldn't even talk about it. So I calmed her down and I relaxed her a little bit and I said, all right, let's take a break here for just a second. let's imagine something that you'd really like to be doing. What would that be? She says, oh, I love to swim. So I said, all right, let's go swimming. And she looked at me and I said, pretend in your mind. She said, oh, okay. So she closes her eyes and we pretend like we're swimming and we're paddling around, having fun and splashing. And I go, hey, that's really cool. Look, I found something magical. And I pretend to throw her something and she pretends to catch it. Says, what is this? And I said, look, it's a waterproof book. And she said, wow, and she dunks it in the water and she says, can I open it and look inside of it? And this was a kiddo who would not open a book. You couldn't force her to. You couldn't bribe her to do that. And when she got in a state of mind where she was having fun, she asked me now if she could open the book. And it was so powerful. We created a game that before she ever reads at school, she can't even think about reading before she takes a little swim. In her imagination, she'd jump in the pool, get nice and relaxed, comfortable, and then she'd read from her swimming pool in her mind. And what I realized is, and I've seen it, but so many of us get so frustrated because we're either worried that we won't be perfect or be unsuccessful or kids will make fun of us, or, and this carries over to adults as well. And so as I continued my own personal health and personal work, I started getting very interested in the area of visualization, which I call internal visioning, and wanted to see, is the external world that you're living in really matching the internal world that you create for yourself? So if you see yourself as a terrible reader, even if you have skills to read, you're going to avoid, be frustrated, create a lot of anxiety. And so my focus really started for myself, the reflection of my own personal work, as well as my professional work, of really looking within.
So I'd love to have you repeat it again. So what you did is the internal and the external visually. Is that what you're doing?
Yes. The nature of my work as a developmental optometrist was to really, besides making sure your eye health was fine, to really work on getting single vision and tracking the external things that we're measuring when you go for an eye exam. Can you see better? Here's some glasses. But we have this whole inner visioning, which is very multi-sensory, awareness, a knowing, a seeing, that many, athletes know how important this is. Your major league athletes will take a lot of time rehearsing mentally and actually connecting that mental physically, but they work on their visualization skills to enhance their sports performance. That's the internal visioning that I'm talking about. And often they may have great skills, but, if that athlete sees themselves falling off the beam, like in gymnastics, and they keep rehearsing in their mind and they see themselves falling off the beam, what do you think in their performance is going to happen?
Oh, they've implanted it. They've implanted it.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly.
And so their external world ends up matching what their internal visioning was, and that's not the result that they were hoping to get.
I always was fascinated. I still do sometimes, but when Tiger Woods was first coming along in the sports and got all this, global recognition, I was always fascinated by the way he would crouch down when he was going to putt, crouch down, and literally he would tunnel his eyes. And like he was only looking through this frame. This is the only frame he's looking at. And I always wondered just how many blades of grass did he see getting in his way? What little divots were along the route? And I don't know if you've worked with golfers but I've always wondered with that, how they operate when you see them. And it's very common to see certain athletes, get into a different zone almost.
There's no question about that. We actually do sports vision, and it's a great example you brought up with Tiger Woods. I had the opportunity to work with a professional women's golfer named Val Skinner. And she came out of college. She was touted to be one of the top women professional golfers. And once she hit the LPGA, she just wasn't making the cut and wasn't doing well. And she found a way to one of my friends, my colleagues and associates in Wyoming, who diagnosed her with a visual problem where she misaligned her eyes. So when you talked about Tiger Woods crouching down and looking, golf is such a visual game. I mean, there's actually optometrists like me who are consultants to golfers, professional and competitive golfers, because golf is all about vision. And so what happened with Val, because she had it's called a convergence excess, she misinterpreted things closer than they were. And so when she would crouch down and try to, look at the putt and look at the divots and look at the angles, she got misinformation as to where that cup really was. And so then she would visualize that, hit the ball, and make errors, especially in her putting. And so she started vision therapy, and Val was a phenomenal visualizer. I have never met anybody like this. She could visualize every single blade of grass going down as the ball would roll over it and coming up. And if she hit it to the right, she could see that flow. She was unbelievable, but she taught us about garbage in, garbage out, because visually she was processing incorrect information. When she visualized it, she would then tell her motor system how to hit it, but it was inaccurate because of the inaccurate visual information.
Oh,
and
great
through,
example.
Yeah, well, so through vision therapy, she really improved her eye alignment, and her accuracy greatly improved. Her visualization, which was phenomenal anyways, was now accurate because she had appropriate information in so she could process and hit the ball. She ended up moving up to the top 10 money winners.
Wow. All right, we'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Is there a book in you or another? AuthorU shows you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you will find a supportive and brainstorming community that is connected and creative, no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual AuthorU extravaganza. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. AuthorU is the premier authoring resource in the country, creating community, education, guidance, vision, and success for the serious author. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. Timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted on its social media platforms, and it is free. Discover AuthorU, where authors go to become seriously successful. Join AuthorU today at AuthorU.org.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
With me today is Dr. Lynn Hellerstein. She is the author of Expand Your Vision, How to Gain Clarity, Courage, and Confidence. And the story, the illustration that she shared, actually there was like almost like a visual demo that you could have gone through, what she did with the swimming how to open up a book while you're swimming. I thought that was kind of cool, Lynn. And then talking about working with golfers and getting them to look at things from a different not only a different perspective, but with added tools that corrected a vision issue that turned her in from a so-so golfer that had great potential, that something was just out of alignment, to a huge success on the tournaments. So, Lynn, my question for you is, so how do we take this as authors? That do we need to go in and have a vision therapy checkup? Can we start doing things immediately to maybe get us unblocked? People who get blocked, or they're just the creative juices are not flowing like they should be flowing with that, and becoming truly a confident author, even in some of the most hiccupy times.
Well, I think authors, just like any other kind of professional, musician, athlete, etc., we're all human, and by nature, we have our ups and downs. And the goal is to find systems that work for us. And my system is my system. It may or may not work the same as your system. But if you really start tracking your very top performance people in whatever fields you're looking at, so many of them talk about the power of visualization. Mm-hmm. I mean, big businesses, they have a vision of what their business is. And then they have a mission statement that states it, and then action plans to do it. That's how big businesses are very successful. And if you're missing any one of those three things, the big vision, the declaration statement, or the action, that's where we get stuck. We dream big but never get anything done. We run around in circles but never have a direction. Or we don't believe in ourselves, and therefore we can't move forward. So this work goes beyond visualization. It's really all about the see it, say it, do it. Finding methods for ourselves to dream big, look for miracles beyond what's predictable, believe it, state it clearly, and then take action to do it. Mm-hmm. So the question for you as an author is, if you're stuck, where are you stuck? Are you stuck in the belief within yourself? Are you stuck in that you just never see that you're going to be successful? Or you just never get around to doing it? And if you start looking at yourself, and I find the easiest way is to start visualizing, breathing, you just don't know what will come up, but there'll be many, many answers within yourself. And that will help block.
I believe in all that. As a speaker for over 4 decades, I always visualized myself on the stage, interacting. What was I doing? My choreographic of how I would move. I had all of that, and embedded that. So that's what would happen. So going back to how you initially kicked this off, if you see yourself as a gymnast falling off the beam, by golly, you will. So you've got to see that success quotient in. Lynn, you talk about the seeing brain. What is it?
Well, most people, talk about seeing and even vision as 20/20. Can you see a certain letter at a certain size? And, vision really doesn't take place in the eyeballs. Most of the patients I used to treat had healthy eyes. Maybe they needed, glasses for seeing. But the real magic happens in the brain. That's where all your visual information is processed and created. And so when people talk about, I can't have a vision problem because I see just fine, I see 20/20, it's like one of 15 or 18 different skills of vision, and most of the action takes place in the brain. And so, we block our vision. Like, we might see well, but we may not believe what we see, or we may limit what we see. And those limitations is what keep us from performing and doing what we want to do in life, whether it's write a book or, be an athlete or build a new business.
Outside of being an author, a well-received author, did you visualize yourself being an author? years ago?
Oh, Judith, that's a great question because I did not. I visualized something bigger, though. I visualized I was going to get the importance of my work out to millions of people. And so I've always, and I still do have that big picture of millions and millions, especially kids, getting appropriate vision care and using their vision so they can be who they should be. In that, I always visualized myself as a speaker. And I've always seen that. In fact, I visualized myself speaking to about 1,000 people and being the backstage and the mechanics of that. And that just happened a couple of years ago. Almost exactly the way that I visualized it in a group that I would have never imagined. Mm-hmm. But what happened was I had given I thought it was a great lecture. It was a workshop in about, 2008. It was about 2008. And I remember saying to myself, this is really good stuff. It's so impactful. At the time, I was mainly with kids and athletes. I said, somebody needs to write this stuff down, but it's not going to be me because I hate to write. and I happened to go to a workshop, and they were talking about how you can make money off books, which may or may not be true. But he said, everybody has a book inside of them. And I said, not me, I have another speech. He goes, everybody has a book inside of them. And it hit me. Oh, my gosh, I have a book inside of me. Now what am I going to do? And once I get something in my mind, that's why I sometimes resist on my own visualization, because once I create it, I can't stop. Once it's in my mind, full force ahead. So what do? I try not to create it if I don't want to do something. But this was, how am I going to do this book? And then the whole process of writing the book was a miracle for me that I would have never predicted, but I was open to a miracle beyond what I could imagine. I worked with a friend who was going to write it with me, and she said, no, this is clearly your book. And I thought I was done with the book, and she said, yeah, you've just started. You need a lot of work on this. And she referred me to you. And I didn't know what a book shepherd was. I thought I was done with my book. And that's when the magic started, in that you and I knew each other from an earlier life, which was interesting. And we started working. And you didn't tell me that it takes a long time to write a book. I wanted to do it within 9 months because I was lecturing at our national lecture conference in Denver. So not knowing that, I just assumed you could write a book in 9 months and get it out there, which is what happened. Despite all the breakdowns, we had it out there. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that most people don't order 5,000 books. You asked me how many I wanted to order, and I go, how about 5,000? He said, okay. And we sold out of that. And so it was just from not being limited by what people had told me, like, oh, you shouldn't order that many, by my own creations of what I saw and believed in. That's what happened. And so, we're on about the fourth printing now.
You are. And, one of my takeaways with what you're saying here is how important it is to not let your lack of vision limit you, that you can open it up. I'm not quite sure how to wiggle that around, but that's what I think people, they don't think of the possibilities that can happen, because I guess maybe they've had a lot of no's, or they've had resistance, or, where all that stuff comes from. But
I think that's so true of so many people, of either they had no's or they're afraid to succeed. There's so much fear and anxiety. I deal with that as well. And if we let that fear and anxiety break down your visualization, you may not even be able to visualize, actually. Or you're visualizing all the fear and anxiety, and that doesn't allow for any new creation. Mm-hmm.
Well, when you just, we're actually coming up to our next break. How could that be possible? In about 3 minutes. But so the question I have for you, because you didn't visualize being an author, you were a speaker, and that evolved because you heard I think that what your example, when you were sitting in whatever lecture you were sitting in and everyone has a book in you, and I always add to that, Lynn, but we have to, should it be allowed out? That's another question that needs to be asked. Because there is some real junk out there. And I actually, with COVID and the plethora of books that have flowed out, there is some real ugly stuff I've seen recently that people are touting, and I'm thinking, oh no. Anyway, I digress. That when you were in that vision of being a great speaker, and then that the evolution started for you, did you visualize having more books? Because I was a one book pony. I didn't think, I thought, okay, I'll write one book and that's it.
Oh, no. I was done with that book, and I was so proud of it, and said, I'll never write this again. I'll never do this again. And then, once I allowed myself just to be in the presence of its success, then something new came. Like, oh, we need a workbook for it. All right, I'll do it. And then something else new, like the dads don't get how these vision problems affect learning. I'll write a book about sports vision. It's the same skills, but it's a different connection. You understand the importance of vision through sports. All right, and then started repurposing. And so at the end of every book, I think this will be my last book. And then some need presents, and it's like, oh, well, I've got some valuable information I think that would be useful. If I create that I can do it, then all the pieces, like you as a book coach and the editor, all of that just starts coming into my life because I've created the bigger picture of the success of getting that information out to whatever population I create.
Oh, I love the idea. Yeah, the bigger picture that allows more to come in to complete the picture.
That's how I did my whole book. Once I thought, there's no way in the world I can write my book, but it's got to get out. How am I going to do this? Threw it out to the universe. And that's where all the referrals just fell in my lap. The people I need to contact, the groups I need to work with. And it just happened because I kept, this is a pun, kept my eye on the big picture.
That's right. Okay, so with that said, we're going to take one more break. And when we get back, I want Lynn to share with us that what was the tipping point, that how she became so interested in visualization.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Discover the power of you and your book at the Judith Briles Unplugged events. Each summer, Judith Briles Book Marketing Unplugged unfolds over 3 intensive days working with just Judith. You get publishing strategies, author and book platforms, book marketing panache and pizzazz, and authoring tools to take you and your book to rock star success. In the fall and winter, Judith Briles Speaking Unplugged includes Judith as your coach and mentor during 2 powerful days. You will learn how to structure a speech, how to create openings and closings, how to find gigs that pay you and sell your books, and you will get one-on-one coaching. Go to thebookshepherd.com and click on the Events tab to learn how to participate at the next Unplugged Workshop event.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, with me is Dr. Lynn Hellerstein, and she has written a gazillion books now, but she's, long past being the one book pony author, where she thought she'd only get one book out, and then I always say they breed. Books breed more books. And talking about this whole visualization. And I think, Lynn, I would love to have you kiss on. I want to get into what was your tipping point that moved you into using visualization in so many areas and finally writing a book on it. But that I have things, sometimes all of a sudden there's a trigger that happens. Maybe we need to talk about triggers a little bit that drops in. And I know the current book that I just wrote the first chapter of that I'm working on wasn't even in my vision pattern at all. But I don't know where I was, or I was maybe a conversation I was having, but all of a sudden it just dropped in that, and my new book is going to be called The Author's Walk. And that it's not the journey, it's the walk. And that I sat down, I was talking with it at the Saturday gathering we do in my home with authors locally here in Colorado. And, after they left, I sat down and I wrote the first chapter, and I intentionally made it extraordinarily short. It is 8 lines. That's it. But just working the right words and bringing it all together. And it also believes, and I have visualized Dr. Lynn in it, those 8 lines.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Okay, so what's your tipping point? What got you going here?
Yeah, I do believe there's almost always a tipping point, and it's usually something personal, which for me in 2002, I believe the universe sent me a wake-up call. I had a significant medical challenge. I had a tumor in my colon. I had surgery. Luckily, all came out well, but my recovery was greatly hampered because I became allergic to all foods, and I couldn't eat, I couldn't digest. And the metaphor for my life was I could not digest life. And it threw me into a really challenging state. No longer were the roles of being an optometrist and an author, mother, doctor, any of that was important to me. I just couldn't function, and I was beginning to ask questions about who am I and what's my purpose of life. I mean, it was a time that I was just so disconnected physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And I couldn't work for a long time, and that gave me plenty of time to be, what am I going to do? It was a very dark, scary place at that time. And out of that time, and again, starting to just breathe, be with, all the terms that you hear, and I'd already visualized some, but again, I ran into a psychologist who was doing a lot of visualization work, mind-body work, not traditional psychotherapy, who started working with me. And I thought I was going in there, for my general health, and it was much more than that. We don't know what we really need. We just don't kind of know the symptoms of being depressed and being sad. And out of that became a huge gift of vision transformation for me, that I was beginning to see, you mentioned it, the possibilities of life, despite having these physical challenges and thinking I'd never be able to go travel again. All of this, I could look beyond that. That's the big picture, and start seeing more possibilities of what I want to be, not so much do, but be. And as I saw myself, I kept seeing myself standing very high, looking out over thousands of people, helping thousands of millions of people improve their vision. That's the picture I kept seeing. I didn't know how you do it. I didn't know how to get there, but that's the picture that started coming up for me. And once I could see it and I declared it, I started creating what's called an action plan, and step by step. And that's where, again, I spoke more, and that's where I had the big speaking opportunities. But out of that came then this whole book thing. But that's a great example of my own picture, my own vision was bigger than my resistance of writing a book. And
Mm-hmm.
because it was so important to get my message out, by allowing myself to be there and look for miracles, then you and all these other people came in to assist and help me get towards my vision. So I didn't need to know the steps. I didn't need to have all the skills. I just needed to believe in my vision and that I could do it.
You know what? One of the common questions, like I have a newbie author coming in tomorrow to work with me, and one of my questions will be for her: what is her vision for herself? What is her vision for her book? And we will spend a lot of time on that, because if I can get it implanted in my head what her vision is, I can put the game plan together to get us there. So.
Well, the terminology is so interesting. You've used this before, the myopic viewpoint.
Yeah.
Kind of really focused, detailed, great for, sometimes clarity, but not the opening of space where other things fall out.
Mm-hmm.
That brings me to the story of Betty, who's in my book,
Mm-hmm.
where Betty was about 72 years old. And she needed glasses. She was about 2,100 without glasses. And she never wore glasses.
She needed glasses.
She needed glasses. And glasses got her to 20/20. But Betty wouldn't ever. She was sweet. She always says, I just love you as my doctor, but I'm never going to wear your glasses. I said, well, Betty, you're a great artist. And I actually have some of her artwork in my house. And I said, how do you paint so beautifully when I know you're not seeing very clearly? And she looked at me, and this was very early in my career. I was just out maybe a year or two. She says, oh, honey, I don't need to see clearly to paint my pictures. I need to see much more space and awareness, and those glasses make me see too clearly. They disturb my painting.
Oh, don't you love that?
Well, here I am, I've taken 8 years of college. I know how to do my work. What is she telling me? And
yeah.
It was a rude awakening for me. But that started me on this course of there's more to vision besides your eyesight.
I know, because if she had utter clarity in the 20/20 scope, she wouldn't be able to create this amazing art that her other vision brought into play.
Yeah, especially our peripheral awareness, like noticing things on the side. That's how we move. That's how we're aware of things, our sensing. I have this feeling, that all happens in other parts and areas of our vision and other sensory systems. That's all integrated together. And if we do anything to either isolate or really tighten up a system so that you lose your awareness, that not only breaks down creativity, it creates more anxiety and stress. If you're ever stressed, and I don't know if you've noticed, if you're ever stressed and you breathe really hard, you could hardly even see in your peripheral vision. People may be out there and you don't even know they're there. But if you just relax for a moment.
You get so narrowed. Everything is shut out.
Totally. And the listeners can do this, is, look at an object and look so hard and tighten up and hold their breath, and they may not even be aware of things in the periphery outside of that object. And then if they let go and take a deep breath, just breathe and let go, it is amazing how your peripheral vision opens up and your awareness changes.
On a side note, one of the authors who is being inducted into the Colorado Authors Hall of Fame in 2021 is an author by the name of Kevin Anderson. He's kind of got his name on, I think, something like 180 books. Lucasfilm is very interested in this gentleman. And he is doing all the rewrites of Dune, the Dune series, including his name is on the new film coming out this fall, the remake of Dune. Kevin only writes. He writes with his vision, in that that he uses the eyeball vision to start it out, and then he brings in all the other elements. He writes when he's hiking. He writes in his head. He dictates as he goes along. He's on trails. He's out in a field. He may see, Colorado lupin all of a sudden coming up, and it triggers a whole new array of other visions that he comes up with in his visualization. But it's a huge part of what he puts together to create these blockbusters he's have. So he doesn't sit down like the traditional writer with on the computer and ready to type away. He lets all his senses go to work, and then the imagination starts, which I love.
That's a beautiful, beautiful example. And that's probably one of the best, ideas you can give your listeners when they hit that block. Get up, move, go outside, really practice your breathing, and just tap into your senses. What do you feel? What do you see? What is a touch? How are you moving? Because that's when creativity really can start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
what a master he is.
He is a master. And in fact, on his voicemail says, hi, it's Kevin. I'm not here. I'm out walking and writing my next book, or something like that. That is exactly the variable on that. And I think that, as we rope it in, because our overall theme is, how do you use visualization for author success and bring that in. So we're like a minute away from our final break. And then what I want, Lynn, when we come back, if you can give us a quickie tip in 30 seconds before we go to the break, I'd love it when you come back. Let's get into some tips that people can use to enhance their clarity and become more courageous, because I think a lot of people are so afraid and their confidence takes a bang that of exposing themselves, because one of the things that in the author's walk is to be aware of the vulnerability, because there are people who are going to take some pot shots at you when you come out with your written words. I'm sure you've been hit it. Boy, have I been hit with some of the things, because I would go down controversial fields with some of the things that I created in my publishing works. That, how maybe you have some tips on how to rebalance yourself and get going again. All right, we'll be right back. It's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. I'm Judith Briles.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Are you confused about publishing options? Do you know which printing option is best for your book? Does your stomach flip when you think about selling books? Or do you feel overwhelmed with what to do about book marketing and publicity? Get the answers and much more. Get them and from someone who knows publishing inside and out, from both the traditional and independent sides, how to make a successful book. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand and platform, and is a success, a bestseller. It is your choice. You choose. If you want author and publishing success, you want Judith Briles as your book coach. Sign up for her weekly blogs and e-zine at thebookshepherd.com. The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and guide to collaborate with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You do not need more problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and chaos. At times, she has had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher, by a publishing service provider, and sometimes even by the author. If you want author and book success, connect with her today at thebookshepherd.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
With me is Dr. Lynn Hellerstein, one of my favorite authors, and her latest book, we want to give a shout out for it, is called Expand Your Vision. It's a little book with a lot of meat in it. And the subtitle is How to Gain Clarity, Courage, and Confidence. It is available on Amazon in ebook as well as print book form. And that she's got some actual visualization exercises. And if time allows, maybe we can go through a mini one, why we're here. But I have a quickie question, Lynn, for you. Is there any age limitations? I mean, you and I have been out here for a long time. Some of our readers, I would say my average client is maybe 60 because they're not working the gut-wrenching hours and they're starting opening up. Well, maybe I do have some wisdom I can share. Or maybe I can finally start writing that novel I've wanted to do. So I think as people start thinking retirement, it opens up, I'm going to write a book possibility. So question is there an age limitation to using some of your strategies?
I never knew that answer, so I just tried to do this kind of process with people of all age, starting with my kids around age 2, where if they couldn't go to sleep or they were worried, we'd take little balloon trips where we would imagine, first we had to breathe, and the breathing's a big, big piece of this whole process. Breathe and let go of our tightness in body, and we get into a balloon, and then we go high, 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 high in the sky and say goodbye to the world and say hello to the birds, and we feel the cool breeze. So it's very multisensory. And then we would go to the clouds. And they were really great, fluffy clouds that we would sometimes just jump and roll. And one of my daughters used to practice her gymnastics in the clouds, or talk about friends, or lay down and relax and go to sleep. So I started at probably about age 2 with a little one. And I've used it on people of all ages, all developmental status, some people with brain injury and concussions to relax them. I've used it actually in the ICU with a friend who had a heart surgery that needed to calm down, and we breathed and just pictured things, and all the way up to, I think the oldest one that I documented, only because, and I'm sure it's older, but in my book is 72 or 74 years old, an Ironman who at 72 years old, where they're running a marathon and riding bike and swimming several miles, and he had to stop doing his Ironman because his eyes would cross. He had double vision and he couldn't jump on his bike. He physically was visually limited.
Ouch.
But this guy at 72 or 74 just kept seeing himself as an Ironman. He came in, we gave him some vision therapy that he practiced like getting in shape for his Ironman. And this is not usual, but in 8 weeks, he took care of the problem. He was back competing and he places at every Ironman because the number of people at age 72 competing is very limited. So if he can complete the Ironman, he's a success. But this is where his internal vision was bigger than his visual limitation and found a way to get through that visual limitation. So it's something that we all can do at any age and any place at just starting with a breath. That's all it takes.
I'm reminded of one of the events that happened. Who knows what Jeff Bezos is going to be doing when he goes up? Because we were taping this before his exploration into the kissing the limits of space here. But I'm thinking when you were doing the, up, up, up into the cloud, I'm thinking of Branson. And I'm thinking, what are those astronauts? What's going through their head? What are they visualizing as they sit back and that rocket's shaking, shaking, shaking? And it's up, 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 and really breaking through, and then the calm, all of a sudden the calm. And in the case of Branson, where his equipment dropped them down, and as a Star Trek fan, okay, we're going to warp speed. and drop down and being ready for that, feel that. And I know I did the same thing with my kids. Oh, my kids would talk me into them. My nephews and nieces, come on, Aunt Judy, let's get on the roller coaster. Oh my God, what I want to do not want to get on this roller coaster. So I always would visualize myself. Okay, so I see we're going up, 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 and then that's god awful drop, and then the calm and coming up again. I had to visualize myself to get through it.
Yeah.
So,
and there's a couple little tips that can help you in situations like that, which you just intuitively did. But I like to mention it to them because
please, yeah, let's hit some tips. We have about 10 minutes here. Let's hit some tips on what to do to deal with stuckiness. How about that? Writer's stuckiness or something.
Sure.
That we can move through it. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. The first thing that helps, if you do nothing more, is to really practice your breathing. And people go, well, I breathe all the time. What do I need that for? Mm-hmm. And if you look at babies, like the whole body breathes with little babies. Mm-hmm. You see their chest.
Oh, yeah. Tummies.
But when you look at adults and you can put your hand on the chest or on the belly, you barely can feel some movement in the chest. Our breathing really gets constricted. And if you just will put your hands like on your belly, I used to use the example of use the phone books, lay down and use phone books on your belly. That you really need to breathe to move those phone books. The problem is nobody has phone books anymore. So, just anything on your belly, feel it and just breathe into your belly. And that just for so many people, we do that with our little kids, my little grandkids. Let's blow up a balloon. We won't even talk to them while they're crying. Let's blow up a balloon, blow out the candles. Now we can talk to you. And so people are in the state, my experience has been when people are in the state of anxiety and stress, they are not in the state of creation and even proper thinking. So trying to rationalize, trying to be creative, under that kind of tension, it's, just accept it's not, you're in the wrong part of the brain. I mean, there's neurology to show it. You're in the wrong part of the brain. What can you do to be very creative? And the first thing is, how can we calm ourselves down? So the breathing is a biggie. Another step is relaxing. People say, relax. And then they tighten up. Because, what do you mean relax? And just going through muscle tightness, squeeze all your muscles, your hands, your legs, and let them go. And then squeeze them again and let them go. And after just a couple times, and you can do there's so many apps and, DVDs and all on body scanning and relaxation. But these are simple things you need no equipment. You can do with anybody of any age at the moment. I'm a musician, and before I play, I sometimes get some performance anxiety, and I'll just go through, this whole breathing strategy and practice breathing. Pretty soon those thoughts start just melting away. You can't stop any bad thoughts, but what you have to do is allow them to move through. And if you don't allow them to move through, then they blow up, and that's where so much tension is right. So the breathing relaxation is big.
Yeah, I am so glad you brought about baby breathing and that belly breathing, to learning
Hmm.
how to bring that breath down into that lower belly. So it does amazing things. It's amazing things when you can do that. All right, Lynn, we have like less than 3 minutes. Where else do we go from here?
Great. The next thing is when you want to create your imagery, realize some people see like the neon signs, vivid imagination, and some people don't. And it's not right or wrong. It's different. They may have a sense, an awareness, a gut feeling. You hear my language is describing other senses, a knowing. So however you do your imagery, and the See It, Say It, Do It book really gets into how to create imagery, but just notice what's there. And then what I say is play with your picture. What size? If you see a person, how big are they? What are they wearing? Who's there? They're bigger than the other one? Well, what do you need to be safe? So I always bring safety into almost all my sessions on visualization, because if people don't feel safe physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, they often will hold back and stay tight. And so with kids, for example, we'll say, bring in your superhero to be with you, or bring in mom, or bring in your pet, or bring in an angel, or whoever it is to take this journey with you. You can have that thing or person with you. And for test anxiety, we have lots of people bringing in, their friend or a spouse or somebody who has the answers that they could talk to in their head and get all the answers. So safety, safety, safety is humongous. Such a big thing for creating your picture. And then play with your sensory system. Smell, touch, vision, audition. Because people are all different in their strengths and their challenges. There's not an exact way to do it. But whatever you do, when you start creating awareness, you're already on the path. And that's where you create miracles.
All right, we've got 30 seconds. What else do we need to do? Are we there?
I am. My mantra is to have fun in life. Enjoy life and expand your vision.
Exactly. And the other side of that is, with these tips to go through your process, is to have fun and be open there with that. With what can happen. Thank you, Dr. Lynn Hellerstein, for a enlightening, insightful, visionary episode. How's that sound?
Thank you, Judith. I love all the visual words.
There you go. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week for another episode with AuthorU, your guide to book publishing. Have a good week.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles.